Back to Austin, Texas quickly to Candy Crowley. Candy, the crowd seems to be getting bigger again.
Yes, the crowd is thinner now. It's been raining here, but here the weather doesn't match the mood. Let me give you what little I know about what's going on in the governor's mansion in the past couple of minutes. The governor is there with his brother, the other Governor Bush from Florida, as well as with his father, the former president, and there are a variety of spouses. We are told by an aide everyone is very excited, as you might imagine, that Governor Bush is going around thanking his staff. Quote, it's a very happy moment. You bet it is for the Bush family, and of course for these Austin residents and those from surrounding towns who have been been here about 9 hours waiting for a moment just like this. Judy?
Candy, in talking with Karl Rove earlier today, I know I was struck. I said, you know, if Governor Bush wins, what is this a testament to thinking he would say something about the kind of campaign that was run, and he said it would be an extraordinary testament to a guy with amazing powers of persuasion and somebody who shouldn't have won, given peace, given prosperity, and the fact that the Democrats should have been reaping the rewards of that.
Look, it is a testament to something, first of all, a very well-run campaign which admits to making some mistakes, but on the whole was very steady about the issues that this governor wanted to talk about, was very steady in their strategy, which they put into place 17 months ago, which they then carried out over the last 2 weeks exactly as they planned it 17 months ago. Having said all that, with peace and prosperity, this is an amazing outcome that a 6-year governor from the state of Texas has been able to grasp the presidency for the Republicans, something they've been waiting for now for almost 8 years. Yes, what has been said about George Bush all along, what is apparent on the trail and in some of these election results, is that this is a man who prides himself on being able to bring both sides together. If we heard "I'm a uniter, not a divider" once, we heard it 1,000,000 times along this campaign trail. It was one of his major themes. That is, you know, you don't like the bickering, I can end it, look what I've done in Texas. So obviously that is one of the themes that had appeal.
Candy, this is, it's Jeff Greenfield. Once again, an outsider has beaten an insider. Every time since John Kennedy, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, except for Michael Dukakis, it's always happened. Do they now think, or have they been thinking for a while, that the fresh start theme, the independence theme, not just the fact that I'm not from Washington, but that I can redo the climate of Washington, was what may have made the difference in terms of his appeal?
They absolutely think they can change things. I mean, if there's one thing we also know about this campaign, this is a governor that is very comfortable with his own skills at being able to get along with people. This is also a man who is quite confident, so they go into this really believing they can genuinely change the atmosphere in Washington. And while he may be an outsider, he is no stranger to Washington, as you well know. He came in the final months of his father's last campaign. He has grown up around politics, so while he is an outsider in the elected area, he is certainly not an outsider to the ways of Washington. Has he got a job cut out for him? Absolutely, but they believe he can make some changes in the town.
Candy, 2 questions. One, if this election, well, it is. I said not if it's close. It has been an extremely close election. Any concern on their part about having less than, I hate this word, a mandate? And second of all, in terms of who he will bring to office, there have been all sorts of hints dropped about Colin Powell. Are there any other names that come to mind?
Well, Condoleezza Rice, who has been one of his foreign policy advisors along the way, I think you'll see some familiar names here. They have surrounded him in the campaign. Those are the advisors on both domestic and international policy. So you'll recognize some of those people. There'll be some new people as well, but while there has been some talk of that, they have been focused on winning this election. I think they want to leave the whole transition and who they're going to pick to a later day, but it's got to start tomorrow. And as far as whether they believe that he'll have any problem with the mandate, one of the things he's also said going around the country is, I want to go before Congress and say, you know, I represent the people and here's what the people want. Is that more difficult to do now? Absolutely. But again, this is a governor that is very confident in his skills of bringing people together. Will he get what he wants? No. I think everybody knew all along that neither Al Gore nor George Bush could go into Washington and say, give me this, and Congress would do it. We've watched Washington too long. That's, of course, why they call it the balance of power. There are three branches of government, and George Bush knows full well they'll have a say in a lot of this.
Candy, a lot of people have said Governor Bush underestimates just how hard it is to deal with a city with two parties as entrenched as they are. You know the Congress as well as anybody we know. You've covered it for a number of years. Does he underestimate it, or does he get it?
I think he gets it, yes. He's watched Congress. He's watched his father in office. He's certainly has watched Washington politics over the years. Let me sort of flip that on its ear. Governor Bush is also fond of saying that people underestimate him. So I think, you know, going into this, they're not going to give any ground on I can bring them together. But, you know, Washington, as you know, is a whole nother world, and he's aware that it's there, but being aware it's there and actually experiencing it and trying to get these two sides together, particularly if there is such a close margin in the House and the Senate. That's going to be tough, but they believe he can do it, and you're not going to dissuade them from that tonight.
Candy, do you know when we are going to hear from the governor tonight? Any hints?
We all hope soon, Judy, but I
mean, we can keep talking.
I'm not being told by our producer, Mike Roselli, maybe in about 15 minutes. So, you know.
Would you give him our earnest wishes for a speedy victory, please?
Not that we don't love the sound of our own voices.
But enough already.
You're being a real trooper, Candy, I have to say, because I know you've been there. Oh, goodness. Is it 12 or 13 hours now?
Oh, who's counting?
Who's counting when you're having fun? Absolutely. One has to assume that there may be phone calls coming the governor's way from all sorts of people, including the Vice President of the United States right now, that may be holding up public statements and so forth.
Absolutely. I'm sure that, you know, as is standard, that you have to wait for some sort of speech from the opposition before you come out here. So there's that, and there's, you know, just getting it together, you know, to go from here to there. When you've got all those people surrounding you, it takes some time.
Bob Novak, you're watching this scene of jubilation from our Washington Bureau. I'm just thinking, listening to Judy and Candy, on this ticket with this successful governor, former Defense Secretary Dick Cheney, and because Florida was so crucial, and because there are many retired veterans down there, I'm just wondering how much the Schwarzkopf, Tampa, Florida connection and the Cheney connection and their hammering on national defense and the deteriorating armed forces might have been a factor.
That might have been a factor, Bernie. I think also there's a lot of little ironies there that at the very end, as the Democrats and the Gore campaign were desperately watching the vote count, the slow vote count in South Florida and Dade County, hoping that in vain that Vice President Gore could overtake the lead by Governor Bush. They lost out in Dade County, and it's quite clear that the vote that put George W. Bush over in Florida and indeed into the White House was the Cuban-American vote in Dade County. Now, the irony of that is that Al Gore got in such trouble with his own party by coming out against the president's position on the Elian Gonzalez case, but it obviously did not do him any good with the Cuban-American voters, who I really do think in some way we have to look at the results as they come in, may have decided the next president of the United States.
Bob, I want to you know, since recrimination is also a blood sport in Washington,
You bet.
I've already started drawing up a list of what the Democrats are going to say is why Gore lost. And the 9 nominees are personality, the debates, both the Clinton scandals casting a shadow over him and not using Clinton enough, going left at the convention, I know that'll be one of your favorites, and another one that the fact that the country's been so prosperous for so long made people believe that they could take the risk with an outsider. Any additions you want to make or subtractions from that list of what Democrats will say about this?
All of the above, and one other addition, which I've heard from a lot of Democrats just in the last couple of days before one single vote was counted, and that is the allegation that Al Gore did not stick to a decided track, to a steady course. One thing about George W. Bush, he wasn't the greatest candidate I've ever seen, but he was steady. He had an agenda that he pursued with a great steadfastness. Al Gore, and this is the criticism by Democrats, he would zig one way this day and another the other day, talk about how bad it was Bush was in Texas. The next day he was on Social Security. It was not a steady course. That would not be my criticism. My criticism is that it's very hard, Jeff, for these politicians to get it straight that the American people, given a choice by somebody who is not part of Washington and somebody who is, almost always will take the outsider. The exception, as we know, was in 1988 when Governor Michael Dukakis of Massachusetts was rejected in favor of Vice President Bush, but Dukakis was a really terrible candidate, maybe the worst candidate I've seen. And if political parties are going to be putting up insiders like Al Gore and Bob Dole, they are going to lose because they must get the message some way that the American people, when all other things were in favor of the Democrats this year and all these silly models by the political scientists said it was a sure Democratic win, they still voted no because they don't like the insider.
I wanted to ask Bob Novak a question. Your fellow, the conservatives, the most remarkable thing is that they stayed on board with George Bush. They didn't waver. They didn't give him any trouble. Pat Buchanan disappeared from the entire campaign. Do you find that remarkable?
I think Pat finds it remarkable because he thought he was going to get a tremendous vote from the conservatives who would reject another Bush. I don't believe George W. Bush had to work very hard. He didn't have, as long as he didn't do something silly like saying, gee, I really am pro-choice on abortion and really alienate a whole block of his vote. But they were just saying we had to get rid, we being the Republicans, they're saying they had to get rid of the Clinton-Gore family, get them out of there completely. And there was very little. They gave George W. Bush a lot of leeway, and of course he did come up with he always talked about tax cuts. Every single speech he talked about cutting down the size of government, and that helped secure the base. You know, Bill, a lot of people I've heard tonight saying how hard it's going to be with this closely divided Congress and a narrowly elected president to get anything done. But I will make you a little prediction that one of the first things that will get done is a repeal of the estate tax, because there's a lot of Democrats who are opposed to that. Who voted against the president. It passed both houses easily last time, and President Clinton vetoed it. So that is one issue that may not be of great importance to most Americans, but to a minority of Americans, it was one of the most attractive things in the Bush agenda, and I think it's one of the things you're going to find become law very early in this new administration.